Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Grumpy Surfer podcast. I'm your host, Ads Lyson. I have on the podcast today someone who has brought light into the surfing community and created his own genre, whether he likes it or not, within the surf category of life, surf comedy. He talks about life in California as a surfer and how he became a popular entity through Kook of the Day and the Surfer magazine's Ultra Core Surf Hour. Please enjoy my conversation with Jon Wayne Freeman. Jon Wayne Freeman, welcome to the Grumpy Surfer podcast. How you going, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really interested in all the content you've been putting out on Instagram. Good to hear some of your feedback, the stuff that you're getting back from people as well.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been a blast. It's been going pretty strong for about a year and opened a lot of doors and different opportunities. I'm having a ton of fun with it. And I think the surf world needed a little more humor as we all do. So it's good.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's far too many serious people out there, especially out in the water and back on the land as well, especially sort of like over here in the UK. It's all very serious and it's just, especially sport these days is all very serious as well. And it's just kind of buckling a bit like it's supposed to be fun.
Absolutely. That's what we all got into it for. And that's still why I do it. It's the funnest thing I can think of is riding waves. And it was never meant to be super serious. I mean, obviously, if you're riding big waves, there's always an element of danger, but it's still the funnest thing you can do. So, I mean, I think we need to take ourselves a little less seriously.
Yeah, 100%. So if I can ask you, can you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
My name is Jon Wayne Freeman. Or John, whatever. I just, for some reason, when I started Instagram, I'm like, I'm going to use my real name, my full name, which is probably pretty stupid in hindsight, but now it's stuck. It sounds like only serial killers use all three of theirs, but I'm not a serial killer, normal guy. Things are good. I live in Southern California. I was raised here. I'm third generation. My parents grew up here and my grandparents grew up here. Started surfing when I was 14 years old. Fell in love with it. Been doing that for a long, long time. Went to school in San Diego. Was on the surf team there. Was also on the high school surf team. That's one of the things that's kind of cool in California. If you live on the beach, one of our sports is surfing. Got to do that, which was amazing. A lot of fun. Then went to college down in San Diego at the school right on the beach called Point Loma. Just surf's been my thing that I do forever. And then I was in the Navy about 6 weeks. I got kicked out. I joined after 11. I thought I was going to do that. That didn't work out. I came home. I became a police officer here in California. Did that for a little bit. Decided that wasn't for me. So I became an EMT. Started reserving as a firefighter. And then became a paramedic. I'm still a paramedic, but kind of all along during all this time. And by the way, I was terrible at all that stuff. I was not a good fit for the military. I was not a good cop. I was not any of this, but I always tell people my dad was like a SWAT team sniper, cop for 28 years, kind of masculine dude. So I also was an ocean lifeguard. But I thought I needed to be like one of these guys, which is why I like talking to you, like about the Royal Marines and stuff. Tremendous respect. Like I've just been fascinated with that stuff since I was a kid reading about it, but I'm not very good at it. I'm not the greatest team player in the world. I'm a goofball, like to a fault. So I ended up getting hired as a firefighter here, which is a really prized position, and it took forever. It took years. I got hired when I was 36 and kind of a dream job. And I got let go during the academy and I was like devastated and I needed a job because I have two little kids and a wife. There you are.
Yeah, there are.
Okay.
Yeah. So wife and two kids.
Yeah. Wife and two kids. And I was working nights as a janitor and I just started messing around with the phone, doing all this stuff. And I always wanted to be an actor, be a comedian and do all that stuff. And then people started reacting. And yeah, here we are now. It was amazing. Super stoked. I just kind of started leaning into my strengths and doing what I'm good at instead of what I'm bad at. And yeah, here we are now. I'm talking to you. So I hope that was what you were looking for.
No,
Kind
that's
of a brief.
perfect. I mean,
Yeah,
it sounds like, from an early age and, coming through the school system in America, you've done what everyone should do anyways, go through lots of different jobs and find out what you're good at, and what you enjoy as well. I think that's one thing that people miss these days is they go to university and then they're told they need to do this and they need to do that. Whereas, like, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're never going to be happy in your life anyway.
100%. And it's a fact, and I've had so many jobs. I've worked so many different things. I knew pretty early on what I was good at. I knew what my strengths were. But here, yeah, this idea was stuck in my head of you're going to get a job and you're going to work there for 25, 30 years. But you don't have to do that in this day and age. But that's what I thought at the time. Now I don't think that anymore though, and I wish I would have done did you go on holiday or not holiday? What's it called? You graduate high school and you travel for a couple years. A lot of Europeans do this.
I mean, I did my, so what we call GCSEs, which are like your exams when you're like 16 or 17, and then you get to choose whether you go and do like your A levels. So like your probably like the lower end of college for you guys, because when you go to college and university, you're like in your 20s, aren't you?
Yeah, 19,
Yeah. So
20 for 4 years.
yeah, and then you choose to go to university, but you don't have to do any of that. And I didn't. I did my A levels for the first year, and I probably did it just to piss my teachers off, to be honest with you, because they told me I was never going to pass anything.
Wow.
Yeah, I did that for a year, and then I left. I did about 6 to 8 months of like working on building sites and filling concrete in and getting
Oh.
shouted at by the older guys, and then I joined the Marines then. So I joined when I was about 17, 18.
Okay. And are you still in, or are you out at this point?
No, no, I'm still serving. Yeah, so
Wow.
I'm in my last 18 years. 18 years. It's a long time, isn't it? I'm in my last 18 months, so I've served 20 years so far.
Wow, that's awesome. So at 20 years, that's like in the US, at 20 years, you'll get a pension of some sort for the
Yeah,
rest of your life. Same. Awesome.
yeah. So
Well,
I signed.
thank you, man. Thank you for doing that. I'm not British, but thank you for your service. And yeah, dude, that's impressive. Has it been, I mean, I can't imagine the places you've gone, the things that you've seen. I'm sure it grew you up a lot as a young man.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
so. I mean, you're in
yeah,
that. It's the way I kind of see it is you're kind of like in a football team or any sporting team where you're together and you've got that cohesion all the time with those people and
right.
those people that you work with or whatever. You just end up being with them all the time. So yeah, it's
Are a lot of them surfers or not that many surfers?
um not too many.
Not too
Um,
many. Yeah.
I mean, surfing when I grew up. I mean, I started when I was like 14, so I went on holiday to
Same
Wales,
here.
which is, just off the west side of England, and yeah, I made my own path. Everyone was into like doing like the sheep thing where they followed like the same teams or did the same
Play
thing.
rugby. They all play rugby, or they all,
Yeah,
yeah,
I played football and that
soccer,
sort of thing.
football. Yeah.
I mean, I did all of that, but I was never like mega into it. Um, I had like a Kelly Slater pencil case, and I had posters of like Tom Carroll on my wall, and
Yes.
I'm from the Midlands in England, so it's a good 2.5 hour drive down to the ocean, and it was a bit epic with me until I could learn to drive.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. That's awesome, man. It's cool that you chose that path, I wonder what made you do that as opposed to getting involved in the traditional sports. Like do kids play cricket? Is that a thing too?
Yeah, yeah. So
I think it's
a
big.
lot.
Yeah.
Cricket's like a summer sport here in the UK. Well, I mean, when they call it summer, it's like 2 months of the year is a little bit warmer than usual. And but yeah, cricket, rugby, football, they're all like your stereotypical sports that people play here. I
Right.
did play them, but I didn't like follow them. Like follow the NFL or like the Premier League here. I did my own thing pretty much.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I same thing, man. It sounds like we started at the same time, 14 years old, and it's this thread that's ran through my life, regardless of if I was going through having a bad year or a great year. I've always surfed. It's always kind of been there, through the best of times and the worst of times. Like I've gone out in the water and been able to kind of, it settles me, keeps me where I want to be. So it's a cool activity. I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, I've talked about this before on the podcast where I think in this day and age, people are very heavy into mental health, aren't they? I mean, you should know yourself being like in the EMT and all that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And if you're in those high stress jobs or you see some like horrific stuff like we've both probably seen,
Hmm.
um, you need some form of outlet. And if you don't have that or something to focus on, and then you can go, there's two ways of going it. There's down a dark route where, you
Yeah.
can turn to drink and all that sort of thing. It's pretty gloomy. Or, you can focus on something like jiu-jitsu or surfing or something like that. And,
Good.
you can
Yeah.
focus on that.
Jiu-jitsu is an incredible outlet too. That's funny, man. I saw what how long have you been rolling for?
About 6, 7 years now.
6, 7 years. So purple belt,
Yeah, yeah.
purple belt. Um, I came to I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I love surfing more. I'll just say it. And I was watching guys that were rolling, that were getting older, and I would see them, their shoulders, they would start to get injured. They would start to have surgeries. I saw guys starting to get fake hips, some black belts, high level guys. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, I get so much enjoyment out of this, but do I want to be 65 and walking like I'm 100, and not walking like an old man? Now, obviously, it depends on if you have good training partners, how hard you go, all those different things. But I learned a long time ago that you're only as old as your joints, and I need my knees, I need my hips, I need my shoulders to keep surfing, which is what I love the most. And as much as I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's the most therapeutic thing to cleanse your head, your mind, I'm like, I want to keep surfing at a progressing and really, I don't know. It took precedence over Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and a lot of guys do both, and they do them really well. Continue to do that, but I just got my blue belt, and I'm that guy that like he got his blue belt, and then it's like, where did the blue belt go? We never see him anymore.
Oh,
What
really?
happened to him? Yeah. So I train now, maybe like I'll roll like once every 3 months or something. So
Are you still doing it though? That's the main thing, right?
I mean, if you call it doing it, like I was going, once, twice a day. Like I was addicted. You know how it is. It's the best.
Yeah, I mean, I started really because the waves here in the UK are pretty much, far and few between. And there was I haven't surfed for probably about, 2 or 3 weeks. And,
Mhm.
sometimes you go months without it. And I just wanted to find something that had like a bit of comparative with it. So, where I was up in North Devon, sort of like the north coast of the southwest, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Uh, there's a couple of guys that were into it. We got some mats down because I work in the gym. I'm a physical training instructor within the Marines, and we just started training. And I was a little bit, I guess, lucky but unfortunate. We had a guy called Chris Sherrington who was with us, and he was a black belt judo guy. He's probably about 170, no, not 170 pounds. He's like 130 kilos, 140 kilos. So he's a big old guy. Like, he's
Yeah.
been to the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games. So he's like super
Wow.
high level. And that was my introduction to it, really. I just got absolutely smashed. And yeah, I had a sore neck for quite a while. Like,
Yeah. Those a big man that is competent in judo is a formidable, scary thing. I mean, just to get to where they get that high level and then to have the size. Judo's I read about judo. I love judo. Um, it's an incredible, incredible. skill to have in your tool bag for sure.
I mean, to give some scope on this guy's got massive sausage fingers and his hands would fit over the top of your head and he could lift you off the ground. That's how big this guy is, like, you know.
I remember like all those old like the World War II combatives books are always like they're all judo and boxing. Those guys were like that was it's still a nasty mix. A dude that knows judo and knows how to box. I mean, that's a handful right there
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, that's your MMA right there, right?
Yeah, it is. It is early on. Yep, exactly. So you're a physical training instructor. Is that amongst the Royal Marines specifically or for all the different units?
No, so within the Royal Marines Commandos, you have something called specialist qualifications.
Okay.
So before I was when you pass out of training, your general duties. So you're basically like, I use the word cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like your basic sort of infantryman,
Mhm.
and then you can specialize whether it's anti-tanks, signals, mortars, heavy weapons, physical training instructor, mountain leader. There's lots of different ones that you can choose to go down.
Mhm.
And then, but you don't lose your soldiering role. So within those specialist qualifications, you'll go back to a commando unit and you'll still go out on the ground, still go on operations, still do all that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
you'll still be, you know, your yeah, your remit that you've gone into. So you
Mhm.
kind of stick to it.
I got to tell you something real quick. So there's a small airport right behind me.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And it's primarily used for skydiving. So
Okay.
like I could go look out my window right now and I'll see guys. And one day I start seeing like these dudes with these crazy parachutes with colors I've never seen. So I'm seeing it day after day. And then I was in a convenience store getting some candy and I see these like big dudes with these crazy tats and they're in their jumpsuits and it was the UK jump team. A bunch of them are Royal Marines and they're over here practicing. And I started talking to a few of them and they were just like, yeah, I'm not going to try to do the accent, but they come over here and, uh, and they practice here. And they were just like looking at all of them. And then I went home and I looked up like, who are these guys? Because they all looked like they'd been some places and seen some stuff. And yeah, I looked it up and most of them I think were from Royal Marines. Am I incorrect or not?
How long
Or is
ago
that
was
right?
this?
2 years ago. Yeah, they're like the UK demonstration jump team, like the guys that go out to air shows and do the parachute free fall stuff.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
and
mean, we do have guys that do something called adventure training, and they come to like I think they come to California. I've been to
yeah,
Daytona.
really.
I've been to DeLand and did my free fall skydiving course there. So you do get guys come over and do that sort of thing. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, it was just weird to see like, but there's only so many places guys can jump here. So yeah, they were just using it, practicing, going up all day, jumping, and with funny accents and strange tattoos.
Yeah, funny accents that people say are Australian sometimes when they're not.
Right, right, yeah. So you would go to Wales. How is the surf, man? Is it mostly just windswell crap, or does it have days?
So during the summer, it's not great. It's quite flat because we get a lot of high pressures. Um, but you know, during the winter time is probably the best time to surf. But you've got to wait for those good low pressures to come through to generate the swell in the Atlantic, and then you know it pushes its way towards the coast. But the problem we've got with our country is it's a little, I guess you could compare it to like Maine, because
Mhm.
we're sort of like the same level as that. You know, the weather's quite inclement and it's a little bit all over the place. So, you know, your offshore winds and all that sort of thing,
Right.
you've got to be lucky to get them. Whereas, like, you know, the climate that you're in California, you know, the sun heats the land up and that produces your offshore winds, right? So it's
Mhm.
probably, I don't know, but I would suggest that in the morning's pretty good because the wind's blowing offshore and in the evening, maybe, I don't know.
No, that's extremely accurate. Were you able to throw a board in a board bag and like take it with you when you would travel places with your job?
I never really traveled with it because the places
Okay.
that I went were war zones. So I'm not gonna,
Can't have your board there?
yeah, I'm not gonna really pull out a firewire in the middle of Kandahar. Do you know what I mean?
I was gonna say you picked probably one of the wildest times to join the military. The last 20 years has been quite active in that region. And I mean, you ever stop and think about that, like the timing of everything?
No, I
What
did.
yeah, are you about like 38, 39,
Yeah, I'm 39 in October,
39?
so we're about the same age, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I'm 40. So you picked a time in history when I'm sure the UK, this is as active as the military's been since probably what, World War II or so? I mean,
Yeah,
for consistently,
yeah, we're for consistency. Yeah, I mean, we did have the Falklands back in the early
right?
'80s, but
Hmm.
that was a quick couple of weeks and it was there and gone. So, I think to be honest with you, I was super lucky. When I joined up, sort of like the first couple of years before 9/11, it was just Northern Ireland. Kosovo was happening as well, so
Right.
there's a few deployments to Kosovo and stuff. But Ireland was the only thing. But then, when the Twin Towers happened, I was watching the TV with one of my friends. I was like, yeah, I know where I'm going, and yeah, so I kind of bounced between Afghan tours, and then obviously Iraq happened in 2003.
Yeah.
2002,
Yeah.
2003. So I did the
Mhm.
invasion of Iraq as well.
Wow.
And yeah, and then Iraq, and then Afghanistan's after that too. So you could say I was unfortunate, but you wouldn't join the military unless you wanted to go and do that anyway. So
Right. It'd be practicing for the game you never got to play, and you literally right away got to apply your trade, if you will, in the actual environment. How many deployments have you done?
I did three Afghanistans, and I did the invasion of Iraq. Yeah, so four
Wow,
altogether. Yeah.
that's crazy. And then would they keep you at home in between them to do like training stints? Would you get like posted to do training at home, like for a year or something?
It doesn't really work like that. So we've got something called a drafting system where you get, say for instance, I get posted to a base. I spend about 2 years there, and then once I've done my 2 years there, I'll get drafted somewhere else. So I'll go and spend another 2 years there. It kind of bounces around. So it's between an 18 month and a 2 year drafting system really. So I was quite fortunate that every time I went away with a different commando unit. So I've done all three commando units, and I did operations with every single one of those as well, which not a lot of people get to do that either. So I was quite fortunate.
Do they all have different specialties, or are they just different units
No,
within?
they're all. One of them's changed a little bit now. It's more gone to like the maritime role for anti-piracy and all that sort of thing, and ship
Mhm.
protection. But the other two are still like the main commando roles, i.e., if something happens in the world and we have to go away, like Afghanistan and Iraq, you've got a couple of weeks' notice and you're away again.
Wow. Do you have an idea of what you want to do this after military life is where you want to go? Because you're still a young man. Like, do you know what you do, what your next step is? Have an idea?
Yeah, so I'm kind of halfway through a therapy course called the Bowen Technique, which is a kind of little bit of like osteopathy and sports massage. But it's all about using really light moves called, do you know what fascia is?
No, I don't.
So fascia is like the tissue between your skin and
Okay.
your
Yep.
muscles or your bones. So if
Hmm.
you put your thumb onto your arm or your hand and you move it lightly over, it's not just that area that moves, everything moves, and the adipose tissue is intertwined throughout the body. So the whole idea is that the fascia release, when you do these
Okay.
moves in a certain place, it releases all the muscle tension, or if you've got internal problems, it helps release that. My mum's been doing it for like 30 years, so I
Wow.
was quite lucky that I had a bit of knowledge behind that, and yeah, hopefully with my pension and stuff, I'll make a good living out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So would that be similar to what we call like a physical therapist?
I
Like,
can't.
is it for injuries or is it more massage? Like, or is
Um,
it for rehab?
no, it's like it can be stress related.
Okay.
So, say for instance, if you get like tight muscles in your neck or something, you're starting to get
Yeah.
headaches, you can use it for that. Any stress relief. The thing with the Bowen technique is it's not something that you would advertise to say we can heal this.
Right.
Um, it's to help the healing process. So it kind of initiates it. So say for instance, I don't know, you pull a calf muscle, for instance,
Yep.
you'll do certain um, procedures or moves around the body and then move to the calf, which will then help the healing process or help release the muscle tissue, which will then, if it's not so tight, it can then start healing itself.
And you enjoy it. Like you're into it. You're fascinated by it. Like it sounds like you are. I mean, if that's what you're gonna do, that's sounds great. Like you're into it, like helping people and doing all that. That's funny though, dude. You're literally going from one life where you you had a completely different role to being a healer, essentially, which is, I mean, that's great.
Well,
That's
to be
awesome.
fair, like, a lot of my friends when they leave, they go into like personal training or they go and do like the close protection circuit. You do all
Right.
that sort of thing, and I've kind of like I lost a lot of my cat lives when I was away, and they kind of
Mhm.
like didn't want to push the issue too much. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, well, do you know what? Let's do something completely different. Let's go a different direction. If I get pulled back that way, like you say, I'm still quite young.
Yeah.
That could still happen, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. Man, I'm really laid back. I want an easy life. I want to
Yeah.
go surf. I want to go on trips. The Maldives, back to Indo. I spent a lot of time in Indo surfing between work
Oh,
periods.
dude, I've never been, man.
Yeah,
Is it just, it's insane, isn't it? It's
I mean,
the waves.
I went back like in the early 2000s, so I was going. I did a good 4, 5 years where I ever went out for a month or a couple of weeks here and there, and
Yeah.
I was out there as much as I could and did it on a real budget as well. So I'm not sure what it's like now because, I haven't been there for 10 years, but it was, man, it was so cool.
You got it at a good time. I know parts of it, from what I've heard, are really touristy now and pretty blown out. But I mean, the surf is still amazing. It's Indo. What more can you say?
Yeah, I mean,
Warm water paradise.
one of the things I did want to do is, and I spoke to my wife about it quite a bit, is coming and doing the west coast of California. So coming down, getting an RV or a motorhome and driving down from not so far enough, but from say San Francisco and using that west coast all the way down to Mexico and just see how that goes. But
Dude, it's so fun. So I drove from a place called Fort Bragg, a city that's north of San Francisco, maybe 150 miles. And there's the highway, the one that just hugs the coast all the way down. And this state is so incredible. You can go from the mountains and beautiful snow. You can go from Yosemite, just incredible stuff, to the desert, right? But the coastline, when you get up north, it's like woods, huge, giant trees. The surf is totally different. It's big. There's big boulders. The surfers look different. You'll see surfers that look like lumberjacks with big beards, and you're like, because it's gnarly. There's big fish out there, right? It's a whole different thing. And then you start getting closer down to Southern California, and you see all these little surf towns that have their own guys and their own culture. And the water gets warmer, the waves get easier. I just got back from a trip from like Central California, and it's really sharky up there. And it's super, I mean, they just don't build homes. There's not enough jobs, there's not enough work. But if you want to get alone, like you feel like you're in a storybook. You'll be sitting there surfing and it's just hills, with cows, and the bull kelp, the kelp in the water, you'll literally get stuck in. I thought I was going to drown in kelp. I'm like, this is how I go. I had to take my leash off. You're like climbing on top of it. But then you get down here and you got trestles, right? Which I endlessly joke about because it's this, the waves are so good, so fun, so soft, but there's hundreds of people, and it's 20 minutes north of me right now, this
Yeah.
trestle. So yeah, dude, please do that. It's worth it, and you'll get the full California experience. I'm always interested too, when I talk to people that aren't from here, their perception of what California is so based on movies, magazines, and they'll have questions. I remember I met some Canadians that said to me, do you guys all, sleep under palm trees at night? And I was like, yes, of course we do. Just joking. And then she's like, do you all drive VW bugs and buses? And I was like, yeah, we sure do. But that's it. California is this thing around the world. Always has been.
I think it's the same wherever you go, though, isn't it? There's always that lifestyle. There's always that lifestyle perception, isn't there? The southwest of England is kind of, I would say, like the mecca for tourism. Within the UK,
Right.
it's kind of like quite the holiday place, and it's kind of like the hub for surfing as well. There is waves all around the country, from north to south, east to west. Scotland is it's got some awesome reef breaks. Never surfed them myself. I was based up in Scotland for 2 years and never surfed once, and that was when I first passed out of training. But you know, to go traveling around this country is, I say, is quite difficult, but it's nothing compared to like you guys. I mean, you can travel across a state and it'd take you 3 days. You could travel from north to south in this country, which is like probably about 850 miles, and it'd take like 24 hours. That's about it. And I mean, I live an hour away from my like local break,
Yeah.
but it's from an hour from the north coast. So where the Atlantic is, or the south coast, which is kind of just the start of the English Channel. So when the swell hits the UK, the west swells or the southwest swells that come up from Europe.
Yeah.
We're in a pretty decent spot for the waves, and um, but a lot of people come on holiday down here, which I could imagine is the same for you guys. Everyone just flocks to California in the summer, and
Absolutely.
you
You hear
sort
all
of,
the accents in the water, you'll be like
yeah.
totally different. Have you ever gone to Spain, Mundaka, or France, Hossegor? Have you ever taken the train over there?
Yeah, so I've done quite a few trips, like as call it a civilian, like non-military trips down there.
Right.
Just throwing it into a little shitty car and throwing a tent up somewhere. I've done, the Basque Country, so
Yeah.
Hossegor, the sort of like the northern sides of Spain. So I've never surfed Mundaka, but I've been there. But it's such an amazing place. The beaches down there and the beach breaks are amazing. It's yeah, if you're over in Europe, get yourself down there and have a look.
Yeah. I've heard it's crazy. Like that whole Hossegor area, I mean, like, and then Mundaka, it like looks like there's like a castle or something on the beach. You have all this old architecture. I mean, hopefully one day I'll get over there. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
all that coast area down there. So when you come down to the Basque Country, it's all sort of like really like like olden buildings and stuff.
okay.
There's a place in Portugal. So you know where the CT stops up in Peniche.
Yep.
Well, about 50 miles south, or 60, 70 k south of that, there's like a World Surf Reserve called Ericeira, and there's
Really.
loads of amazing like reefs and stuff like that down there.
That sounds insane because I want nothing to do with super tubes. That looks gnarly. Where
Yeah,
they,
so Super Tubes is halfway between Ericeira and Peniche. And again, I mean, you have to get it right, like any place you go and surf. But when you hit it down there, you're gonna score some real good waves. Like,
hey, what was the name of that? There was a guy from the UK that I think he's the only guy ever made it onto the pro surfing, the WSL or the ASP. But do you know what his name was?
yeah,
I think
Russell
he's English.
Winter.
Russell Winter. Yeah, dude. Regular foot. He
Yeah,
surfed good, kind of little skinny guy.
yeah.
Yep.
I've tried to. I've messaged him a couple of times to try and get him onto the podcast, because he's just kind of dropped off the scene a little bit.
Right. You know who you should message since you mentioned him is Tom Carroll. Dude, he's awesome guy, totally accessible. Dude, send him, be like, hey, Tom, big, I have a plot. He'd probably do it. He's a sweetheart of a guy. Like, that's one of these things, again, doing all this technology, I'm blown away. Like a week ago, I was talking to Tom Carroll in front of my house, and going, but he's a real nice guy. We just kind of go, man, this is incredible. Like, I love that when you talk to your hero, he's a normal guy and doesn't have an ego. Because when you meet the guys that have egos and are jerks, and they're like, it's a bummer.
Well, it's funny you say that. I actually did a podcast with him last Wednesday.
No, you didn't.
Yeah,
How was
man.
it? How was it?
Mate, I tell you what. So I was a little bit when I first did it over Zoom with him. I was a little bit taken aback because I didn't, I wasn't really expecting to talk to him, and especially like I had posters of Tom Carroll up in my room at home,
Yeah.
and him surfing pipe with the gaff on, and I was like,
Yep.
and I'm
Snap.
yeah, kind of like I messaged you about this. I just said, look, this is me, this is what I'm doing. Are you interested in coming on? He's like, yep. And then I did about an hour and a half with him last week, and I was like,
Wow.
he's
That's
talking.
so, dude, I'm gonna watch that when I'm done with this.
Well, it's
I don't think people understand that dude, like in a he's huge to us, but in Australia, he's like as famous as it gets.
yeah.
Dude's like a sport icon.
I It comes out on Monday, so I've just finished editing
Nice.
it, and it'll be released on Monday. So yeah, it was a really good conversation. It was one of those ones where I wanted more time with him, but I only really do these for sort of like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I literally scratched the surface with him. We talked a little bit about the CT, and then big wave surfing and what he's doing now and stuff. And I mean, in the morning there it's about 6 a.m. So here it's like 9 in the evening, and I do a little bit of meditation just to try and sort my headspace out before I go to bed. So I kind of just like he's on like maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and I just kind of like tune into him, and it's just that's kind of where I got it from. I was like really interested in what he was doing and what he was talking about. It was kind of like my mentality, and I thought, do you know what? Let's just ask him.
Yeah, read his book too. His book's amazing. I don't know if you've read it, about
Yeah,
addiction and his recovery and his
yeah,
brother. All that. Yeah, it's good stuff.
yeah. I
When
mean,
you get it done with it on Monday, I'll promote it on my thing. So we'll
oh,
try to get more people over there because I can't, dude, I'm stoked you got him on. That's rad.
yeah, and like you said earlier about, I mean, I've only just started this. You're going to be my ninth episode, I think.
Awesome.
So I've got loads and loads of people that I've spoken to, from like the MMA community. So I've got a few guys that are UFC coaches, that are a friend of friends. I've just kind of hooked up with a guy that works for Dakine.
Sick.
And he started giving, he started,
Is he in Hawaii? Is he in Hawaii?
no, so
No.
he works down the road from me, but
Okay.
his boss is a Hawaiian, and he used to surf with like all the old boys like Jerry Lopez, Dane Carlo, and all
Hmm.
those sort of guys. And he said, well, I could ask and try and hook you up with them blokes. And I'm like, that, like what? Like I'm literally like just some random guy that decided to do a podcast to, you know, help his
You know,
mind out a little bit, and it was weird, man.
no, this is how it works. Like I'm constantly amazed if you just ask. Like people love to talk. We love to learn about other people. And in this day and age, again, you don't have to go through managers and agents and all this stuff. You can just reach out right here and it's either a yes or a no. Like you have nothing to lose, and you'll be surprised how often people will go, yes. Like, it's awesome, man. And I think it's cool because we're all learning so much about each other, and the world gets a little smaller the more we chat. and all the good stuff, all the meat, like you said, like this guy surfed with Jerry Lopez, he surfed with Dane. Like, I want to hear those stories. I want to know the behind the scenes. Like, that's been the funnest part about kind of getting a peek behind the surf industry, if you will, from doing all this, is hearing all the stories and how much of it is rumors. So much of the stuff I heard, like, it's not true. Or someone will say, oh, this guy's this way. And then you meet him and you're like, no, he's not. Like, that's just a persona. And when we only had magazines, like you and I had when we were kids, you'd look through Surfer, Surfing Magazine and everything. This was just, who knows why they were writing what they were about this, what was true and what wasn't. So this is cool because when we can talk face to face and look at each other, you kind of get to know each other better. It's
Yeah,
fun.
one of the things I really wanted to try and talk to him about as well was like board design and stuff. But man, that's just like another podcast in itself. Because he
Yeah.
surfs some pretty crazy stuff, and I like riding different machines as well. I mean, he's into his foiling and his SUP, and now
Yep.
and this is a guy that used to ride like 7.6s at pipe, and guys are surfing like what 5.10s, 5.11s now. I was just like, the fucking what?
Yeah. And these guys too, like their ability on a surfboard is so much higher than the regular Joe, than us. And to listen to them talk about what works for them and what doesn't, these guys can notice when they get a board from the shaper that's like fairly off in volume, or not volume, in dimensions. They can tell you everything about bottom contours. They're freaks, man. It's fun to listen to.
Did
Fun
you
to
have
listen.
you watched any of those electric acid tests?
I love those things. That's
Yeah,
one of my favorite things. Yeah, they're rad to watch.
yeah. I watched the most recent one that they released, which was Dane Reynolds, Mick Fanning, and Geordie Smith. And I
Mhm.
was just a bit gutted that Mick smashed his ACL while he was doing it, because that was some of the insights that they talk about. They're really like open about it too, and yeah, it's really interesting. And that's how I got into like looking at Firewire and Tomo's boards, and I watched loads of videos about the modern planing hull and all that sort of stuff. And I just thought, man, this is stuff that I never even thought of before. And now I'm
Yeah,
looking into it. I'm gonna, it's what I bought a Cymatic out of it, to be honest. And
it's so great. I mean, I'm terrible with my hands, so like getting to sit down with these shapers and listen to them or watch them, I'm just like, I mean, it's incredible. And yeah, the modern planing hole stuff. I mean, it all started back in the day with that one guy, the Simmons, and the way he was doing things that were light years ahead, and how these dudes now in the future, Tomo went back and revisited, and then he knew Greenow, George Greenow, and the way everything worked out's amazing. And his boards, I still have never ridden a Tomo. I
really,
need to ride one. I haven't.
well, you've I saw you've used one of the Machado Seasides, didn't you?
Yeah, I have
How'd
a
you find
Machado
that?
Seaside. That's super fun. Have you watched the Shred Show at all?
Yes.
So he works for Firewire as well. So I watch a lot of his stuff. And then there's another guy that does demos on YouTube, not demos, but he's always at lowers. I forget what it's called on YouTube, but he rides all the different boards. And yeah, I saw the Seaside. I'm like, I knew before I even saw that thing, like, I'll probably dig that. I like quads, fishy. That's a super fun board. It's funny though, dude. The opinions around here are like about Firewire versus hand shapes, your local shaper. It's still like people clash over that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
can.
if you know about that. Yeah.
No, no, I know. I mean, it's not really so much in the UK because we've only got I'd say like a handful of shapers.
Right.
Um, I mean, I've got a funny story about that. So, I like fish. I like all sorts of different shapes. So I've got, really good old school flat rocker Jed Knoll 20 twin fin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
No,
got,
I know.
yeah. But so this is a funny story. So I bought that about 15 years ago from a surf shop in Newquay, which is kind of like the surf mecca. The CT used to go there years ago. Anyway, so I bought this board, and obviously it was a Jednol twin fin, little 5.8 thing, flat rocker, really wide, really thick, amazing on little waves, but also good on big waves when you put some decent fins in it. And anyway, so I smashed the like the fish tails off it. They were, proper knackered, and I had a hole in the board as well. And where I'm working down in Plymouth, so this again sort of like the southwest, there's a shaper there called Luke Young. Really, really nice guy. I'm going to try and get on the podcast as well. And I took it down to him and said, "Look, can you fix this up for me? Sort the tails out, put the fish tails out, and fix the hole for me." Anyway, I went back there when he'd done it, and he said, "When did you buy this?" And I said, "About 15 years ago." And he said, "I used to work in California in the Knowles shaping base." I was like, "That's where I learned how to shape." And I was like, "Right, okay." And he said, "There's a real good chance that I'd probably glass this." And I was like, "No, fuck off, mate."
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a super weird story, and I probably tell it quite a lot, but I think it's really cool, and it just shows how small a world that it is.
It is. It's very small, especially among shapers. And the story of a board, I love that. Like, get these different boards. They have different stories. I'll show you something real quick, just for the camera, because it's sitting right here.
So John's showing a twin fin fish.
That's a 7'7" Christian Beamish. He used to be a writer for the Surfer's Journal, and he's a super gnarly high level surfer. But he also surfs Mavericks and stuff. I got this board for him, and I asked him, like what we were talking about, if you had one board for the California coast, what would it be? And he shaped me this. It's called a Kingfish.
Oh wow!
And it's one of the weirdest boards ever. Like, it's got that pulled in tail, that swallowtail, the wide points forward, and it's like 3.5 inches thick. It's a beast. But basically, you could ride it from 2-foot surf and not be a spaz. And you could also ride it at like double overhead reef breaks. But it's really this cruisy, it's a pretty sweet board. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. It's kind of like
and I just
yeah, go on.
Oh, I just took it down. It's sitting down here. It's been sitting upstairs. Dude, I love surfboards. Like, it's literally sitting here because I like re-waxed it. I've only rode it once, and I always go back and forth. I don't know if you do this. When you're getting used to a new board, you go out and you're like, there's this time to get used to it. But when the waves are good, I kind of want to take a board that I already know how to surf, because I want to surf as good as I can surf. So that's where I'm going through with this. I've only ridden it once. I almost took it out yesterday, but then I grabbed a little 5'4" Simmons type board and that I surf all the time, that I have for like 10 years, and I had a blast, but I need to ride that more.
Yeah, you're probably the same as me. I've got a load of surfboards that I just sat in my garage, and I take 3 or 4 down with me, and I'm looking at the conditions, and I'm going, and then I get out there and I'm like, nah, I should have brought this one out.
Yeah. And I've had so many boards. Do you guys have Craigslist or anything like that?
What's that?
It's where people sell things on the internet. We call it Craigslist.
Oh, right. So we have like the Facebook thing. So we have like Surfboard Southwest or something like that.
And you can find like a really good deal. Like, sometimes people just want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I've had so many boards where like I've ridden them once or twice, and I'm like, this isn't the one for me, kind of right away. But then I go back in my mind, and I'm like, maybe I should have kept that one.
Yeah.
Because, I like to hang some boards just on the wall because I like the way they look,
Yeah, I wouldn't get away with that in my house. My missus would have a right fit.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. My wife surfs, but like right now, there's an 11-foot glider that's in there that she's like, get it out of the garage. Get it out of the garage. She's hammering me. There's a guy named CJ Nelson who's like a really high level longboarder.
Yeah,
and
CJ, yeah.
Yeah, he has a company called Crime, which is these soft tops that are actually really, really good surfboards. But they have a soft top. So that's one of his. And I just texted him yesterday. I'm like, my wife's gonna kill me. I need to bring this board back to you. And he's like, okay, I understand, bro. We'll get it out of there. So yeah, I have the same issue. I've hidden boards in the attic
really?
for my wife. Oh yeah. I got a problem. I love these.
don't tell mine, but I buy stuff and I just don't tell her, and I just like because she never looks in the garage anyway.
Me too, dude. I've taken boards that like I'll use the same board bag, right? So she thinks it's the same board, but there's a different board in that board bag. And I even know guys that have got boards shaped with the same colors, but it's a different board that they'll hide in the garage so that their wife sees the same colors but doesn't know that it's a different board. We're like drug addicts, but it's boards.
Yeah, that's where all my money goes. She'll have where's the shopping money going to come from this month? I can take some wax off and we can melt that down and eat that if you want.
Yeah, who needs food, dude? I need to shred. I need to shred that Nor, bro.
Yeah,
I don't need food.
Let's talk a little bit about. So you kind of started getting popular through. You started with Kook of the Day, didn't you? So you're doing your Instagram feeds, but how did they pick you up?
So Kook of the Day in California, they have worldwide, they have a huge following. There you are.
There we go. Kook of the Day.
So Kook of the Day, I was going to say, you know how to handle weapons, you know how to shoot guns. So if you see somebody handling a weapon that's never handled a weapon, you're going to be like, that dude's a kook. He should not be handling that firearm. Same thing with Kook of the Day. It's like, if you look at it, it says, this is an instructional tool. Like, don't do this, do this. So it always made me laugh. And he started to have people send in like surf reports and stuff. And I would see them and I'm like, the guy was trying to be funny or whatever. And I'm like, it's not that funny. So I said to my wife, I go, I'm going to send Kook of the Day some videos. And she's like, oh, you are? And then he liked them. And yeah, that's kind of how my Instagram blew up, was through him. And then Surfer Magazine contacted me and said, we want to do a show with you. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I grew up on Surfer Magazine. So we did season 1 of a show called the Ultra Core Surf Hour. Yeah. That's on YouTube. And we started to film season 2. We got 2 episodes in, and then all the COVID stuff happened. So right now we're kind of slowly getting back to doing that. Yeah. And then just all these different opportunities have happened with surfing and kind of outside of surfing. And my whole thing was like, what would be funny to me? And a lot of it has to do with surfing. I just never thought that the surf community would jump on it. But like, as surfers, you know, we talk about certain things, like we were about our boards that we hide from our wives and stuff like that. So naturally, that's what I'm interested in. And so that's what people picked up on. And yeah, I'm just stoked on the response. It's been super fun just being a goofball. Love it.
How did it feel when you got picked up by Surfer? That must have been a little bit surreal, really.
Yeah, it was crazy. So Peter Terrace, he works there, and I knew who Peter was because he was a photographer for years. I would see his name in the magazines. And he said, hey man, like, and we both have young kids. We're married with kids. He goes, I kind of was thinking about doing something like you a couple years ago that was basically like middle-aged man going to the beach with that. So they brought me in, and I literally sat at like a table with all these guys from Surfer. And it was super surreal. They're like, well, we think we could do this, we could do that. And Todd Prodanovich, who runs Surfer, he also was behind the idea. And like, we just basically, they turned I mean, you can tell if you watch the show. We just went to different surf spots. They turned the camera on, and I would just talk to people, or we just kind of made it up as we went. Season 2 is a little more structured. No, it felt amazing, dude. They upped my profile, and like, it was kind of like putting a stamp on it. Like, Surfer Magazine said, this guy's like, he's okay. So that opened a lot of other doors. And yeah, it just made me feel good. I don't know what else to say. Like, I was psyched. I was stoked.
Yeah, I mean, something that you started maybe a year ago to what it's blown up to now is, you know, is super cool. Like, you know, and I'm watching it as you go along. You know, it just makes me chuckle because, you know,
Yeah, makes me chuckle
like,
too.
yeah, it's like we're kind of, I feel like there's quite some similarities between us. I mean, I'm not as funny as you are by any means, but you know, take that as a compliment.
I do. I for sure take it as a compliment. No, there's similarities. Like, I mean, but it's funny. I'll be straight up. Like, I want to be what you are. That's what I want. Like, when I was a kid, I was like, I want to be a commando. I want to be in the military. Like, that's what I wanted to be. But I just am not that guy. I tried to tell myself I was, love jujitsu. I love all stuff. But the comedy stuff, that's what comes naturally to me. And I love doing that. It's funny that at my age, it's now starting to go that direction. But I want to be example to everybody that's in their late 30s, early 40s. Like, it's not too late to follow your dreams. Society tries to tell you, like, I would tell myself, oh, I should have done it 20 years ago. No, this is perfect. Like, I'm balding. Like, I go, in my mind, I'm 18 years old, but I'm 40, and I go, this is funny. I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, okay, this is perfect. The timing's fine.
Mate,
It's
there's nothing wrong with a Peter Pan complex.
No, we all have it as surfers, don't we? We
Yeah,
really
big time.
do.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the most kid thing. Like, I feel like one of the lost boys, man. I pee in my wetsuit. I go for a surf, like a kid again. Love it.
Yeah. Don't wash it afterwards.
No, just let it irrigate the garage, whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
leave it in your house to dry like I do, and that doesn't go down well either.
yeah. Like, you never know where things are going to go when you put yourself out there. Like, did you think 6 months ago you would talk to Tom Carroll on a podcast?
No, not at all. I mean, the whole. I mean, I've probably said this a few times on the podcast as well. The one of them, a couple of reasons why I started this was one for my mental health. Talking about stuff we all know, kind of, even though I say it in some sarcastic manner, that it helps you in some way. But also, there's a lot of people that I know that have got some really, really cool stories. They're never going to write a book. They're never going to be high profile on social media. They're never going to tell those stories. And I just thought, well, I tell you what, let's start something, buy a couple of microphones off Amazon, teach myself how to do all this sort of stuff as I go along, and see if they want to talk to me about it. And if they do, that's brilliant. If they don't, well, it's cool as well.
Yeah, I'm 100% behind what you said, because when people lock that stuff inside, like, it stays inside. There's young guys that need to hear these stories, or young people. And if you can get these guys to open up and share this stuff, that's how we get better, man. Yeah, that's why I try to be an open book. I'll get serious sometimes on my Instagram and talk about mental health and things like that, because I wish people would have done that for me when I was, 18, 19, 20. A lot of the men I knew were like, keep that inside. Don't talk about it. But I needed people to talk about it. We still need people to talk about it, because that's how we help each other. So, dude, man, I encourage you, keep doing that. And you're right. You have access to people with stories that other people can't get access to. And if they want to share, that's great. And yeah, like you said, if they don't, that's okay too.
Yeah. I got another question for you. So I'm quite interested. You've got how many kids? You got a couple of kids?
5 and a 7-year-old boy, 2 boys.
Yeah. So I've got an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I find juggling my, going to work, surfing, jiu-jitsu, home life as well. It's quite an epic because, I said this to Tom Carroll. Yeah, let's name drop Tom Carroll. I said to him,
TC,
yeah,
TC.
TC, man, he's my best friend, man.
My boy.
Yeah. I said to him that surfing and jiu-jitsu as well, they're quite selfish things because they're all about you, making you feel good about yourself. Going away on surf trips, I'm 40 next year, and I said to the missus, I wouldn't mind going on a boat trip, to the Maldives, or I want to go back to Morocco. And she's like that. Don't you want to go away with me to Vegas? And I was like, yeah, let's do both of it. So yeah, my question is, how do you juggle all of that? Plus, you're quite heavy on your social media as well. You're posting stuff on your live feeds and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
That as well as being an EMT as well. I mean, there's spare limited time.
Yeah. I don't balance it very well, to be honest with you. I'm still figuring it out. All I know is that this has led to a lot of positive things. So that's kind of what I tell my wife. I'm like, listen, we're working on our future here. Sometimes my head's like this, and I worry that my kids that's going to be their memory of dad. Like he was like this. But most of the time I'm doing this like, I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm figuring it out. It's not good at times. It's good at times. I try to put it away and set aside time. Um, yeah, I worry about it. I'm still figuring out that balance, to be honest, because I always thought people that were like this taking selfies, I thought they looked like total dickheads, and then all of a sudden I kind of became one of those, but it's also like, this is my dream maker. This is what has helped things to happen. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is my wife and my family. So balancing it, I wouldn't be able to do any of this if my wife wasn't very, very cool. And she knows it makes me happy. And she's seen that we're getting something out of it, and that it's opening doors and different opportunities. So yeah, hopefully one day I'll be able to mellow out with that, and I'll have some sort of job where I can go to with a microphone or, something like that. And I don't have to be on the phone as much. I don't have to be on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm addicted, but.
And plus you're getting a load of brownie
Try.
points because she's just sat over your shoulder and listening to what you're saying too.
Yeah. Did you hear what I said? She's not. She's got earplugs. We're not even in contact. We don't even talk anymore. Yeah, she has earplugs in too. She's right there. Hey.
Yeah.
She's got her Kook of the Day T-shirt on right there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That like this. I'll get her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, so all that sort of stuff, the surfer, and I mean the ultra cool surf hour. That's kind of led on to, did you do some sort of like Surf Jeopardy as well? I saw that somewhere, didn't I?
Yeah, we're still doing that. In fact, this week is the final. Then they asked me during COVID, like we wanted to do something. So many people were locked down in their houses, not going outside. So we started doing a trivia show that I would host, which was Surfer Jeopardy, just asking questions. And we just bring people in live. And again, I just use this, set it up. It's super kind of low tech. It's still up there. The Jeopardy board is in the hallway right here.
Okay.
And I would set the camera up in my bathroom. But recently for season 2 of Surfer Jeopardy, I've been going into the surfer's office. That's another thing. Like surfer's office is one city over from my city. So they're real close. So that worked out nicely as well. Yeah, man. And again, like this is all, as a fan of surfing, I couldn't be happier, because people have really been nice and have responded really, really nicely to what I'm doing. So
Didn't you get a bit
cool,
of
man.
negative flack about trestles as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh, come on, talk to me about that, because it made me laugh. You posted something a few weeks ago, and it did make me laugh because I was like, they must think he's a right prick, and then when he turns up again, you're like, that fuck off, mate, get out of here.
Yeah, this guy told me that there was a bunch of people that wanted to sock me and punch me. And so what did I do? I posted what he said and then made a rebuttal, because it's ludicrous. It's like one of the most famous spots in the world. And more people are surfing right now than ever before. I don't know if you know this, but surfboard sales are like the highest they've ever been, because nobody's playing traditional sports. So people are buying bicycles and surfboards. They're doing outdoor activities right now. So the fact that he was upset about like me exposing the secret that is trestles, it's a spot on the WSL until a couple of years ago. Like it's one of the most famous spots ever. But again, when you open yourself up like this, you'll get some of this because you're doing a podcast. When you put yourself out there, dude, the weirdos come out. Like I get crazy direct messages. Like I just posted a video a couple days ago. A guy invited me to Las Vegas for the weekend to party. Yeah. And he's got like 2 girls on a zebra that look like Kim Kardashian. And they look like they've been up doing drugs just for 10 days. And I'm like, no, I'm got a wife and kids. But that's the kind of stuff you get. And then early on, like I had a hard time with the haters. People would be like, stop doing what you're doing. You're not funny, kill yourself. They say terrible stuff. And then I was like, oh, these are just angry people. these are angry people. And had I listened to them, none of this would have happened. And at times in the beginning, I was like, it would start to get to me. I'd be like, oh yeah. And then I was just like, dude, don't read the comments. Don't read the comments. Problem solved. I'll read my own comments on my own page. Like Kook of the Day, I don't read the comments. Surfer, I don't read the comments. Beach Grit, I don't know if you know what Beach Grit is.
Yeah.
Chaz Smith wrote something really nice about me. I did a whole thing there's a contest right now to win a trip to the surf ranch, and it's sponsored by Jose Cuervo, and you surf with Jerry Lopez. I said all that. Those comments on there, I read one comment. Beach Grid is like Stab. Have you read the comments on Stab? They're hilarious, but they're ruthless. So I don't read them. Still working on this up here.
Yeah.
Gotta keep it positive.
Did you watch any of the Surf Ranch stuff a couple of weeks ago now? Did you watch it?
I did. I love watching that stuff. The male and female teams, and they competed. Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was super cool. I mean, I'm a bit of a pest with it, if I'm honest. I love watching the contests. I stick them on when I'm at work. You know, if they're on early in the morning, because they're normally on early in the morning for us. You know, it goes from like early evening through till early hours, and I watch all that sort of thing. I just love it. I love the interviews. I love watching, you know, the different way that the styles. I mean, one of my favorite surfers at the moment is Steph Gilmore. She's off the charts.
It's funny. I was just talking. I had the opportunity to, surf with her. She wasn't there with me. I was in the water and she paddled out, and it was like, you want to see like a group of men, just the entire lineup change. Everybody stopped and we just watched her. And this is what a dork I am. Fully fanned out. Never seen her in person. I see her and I looked at her. All hail Queen Stephanie. And I went like this, and she looked at me and she's like, gave me like the, yeah, weirdo. But I was like, and we sat and watched her. Perfect style, perfect form, beautiful, beautiful lady, like huge fan.
And she rides 20s really well. As I've seen a few video footages of her on YouTube, and you know, the flow that comes out of her is just like, poof, you know, it's
she rides single fin well. There's a video of her riding a single fin at a right point. I think it's her home break. It's a Aleutian Juice, Dave Parmenter, who's a California shaper, and she's just, I don't know what to say. There was a footage of her getting a perfect 10. I don't know if you've seen that a little while back, where she does this beautiful snap, or gets a big tube, comes out, does this big snap to another tube, then comes out and does this floater off the end section. It's in a contest. It's a 10. And you're like, that wave couldn't have been surfed better.
I think that was in the end. Was it in Hawaii, wasn't it? It was.
Or was it France? Maybe it was Hawaii. It might have been Hawaii.
Well, I think she got a 10 at the end of the tour last year, maybe. Did she get to I think she got to the final, because she was riding that pink board. And,
yes.
She got, I'm sure she got a 10. Or it might have been the year before. My statistics in my brain are not that good.
Well, I'm a huge fan of professional surfing, of all of it. That's why all of this, I think, has resonated with so many people like you and me. Like, I read Surfer magazine, still do, from front to back. Like, I read surfers' journals. I have a bunch of them right here. I have a bunch of surfers right here. I'm just a fan of the sport. Like, and it's weird too, because I don't know that I necessarily believe in manifestation. I just think what you think about all the time sort of happens. And I happen to think about surfing and beer. And now all of a sudden there's free beer in the garage and all this surfing stuff. And I'm like, you just kind of get back what you put out there, right?
It's pretty cool though, isn't it? I mean,
amazing.
You don't start things to get, let's call it, free stash. But, you know, when people start, you know, recognizing what you're doing, it kind of, you know, especially like for people like you and me, we kind of go, I'm getting some recognition here, and people are enjoying what I'm putting out, and you're like, this is pretty cool, you know? And I'm doing this just for a bit of fun too, right?
Correct. And the craziest thing to me was, and I knew this all along, but I'm a slow learner, is everything is about action. You can have the greatest ideas in the world, but if you don't implement them, nothing's going to happen. So what I've just learned is like, you do what you do, you put it out there, you see what happens, and you'll be shocked at some of the responses. Like the trestles video was literally, I surf lowers, I came home and I'm like, I'm just going to talk about the breaks from here to here. And then people will be like, oh, did you plan that out? Did you write this? I'm like, no, I'm just BSing, talking. We're talking about what we see. But then they think you're doing something that was planned. And no, I mean, almost everything that I'm doing is just off the cuff. But that's where the fun comes, you know? You just got to make sure that it was like natural, it happened in the moment, don't force anything, and then it usually comes out pretty good, you know? But yeah, that got like people, I run into people all the time. Oh, I love your trestles video. So your trestles. And I'm like, you never know what the reaction will be. It's fun.
Yeah, have you had any call outs when you've been at work and people are like that? You know, they've probably got like a leg hanging off or something like that. Like, dude, you're that dude.
Yeah, I never wanted anything more than to just be recognized, like in public, like have somebody do that. And I will, like, if I stay within a mile of the coast, I'll get recognized a lot. If I go inland, I won't. But in all the beach towns where all the surfers are, you know, I get recognized and I love it. It's so rad. It's just, you make somebody feel happy. You make somebody laugh. You brought them joy. They attach your face to that feeling. So when they see you, they're like, oh, he's that fun guy that made me laugh. And then you have this nice interaction. And to me, I'm like, I can't think of anything better. Like it's better than anything. I love it. But again, I love attention, clearly. So it doesn't get better than that.
I'm not having it. I'm not having it. You like attention.
I do like attention.
you like the most stupid girl at school, but the most essence one as well. And you're like, why is no one looking at me? What can I do?
It's from being the youngest child, man. You're just constantly entertaining, you know, my older sisters and all that. And I love people too. Like that's why I say yes. Like if anyone asks me to do a podcast, I'm like, yes, because I get to ask you questions about yourself. And I'm curious, man. I'm curious about people. So it's fun, man. Love it.
Well, John, we've been going for an hour and a half now. So super, super cool to talk to you. Thank you very much. And, you know, if you're willing, I wouldn't mind doing this again sometime. You know, you're a super nice guy.
I'd be happy to, man. And I don't think you're a grumpy surfer. I think you're a happy dude. Why? I have to ask, the Grumpy Surfer podcast, like, he's got a big smile on his face. He's ripped. He's got abs. He seems stoked.
Yeah. And it was quite ironic that he actually did look like me. He's a shit board, though. I'd never surf something like that.
Are you grumpy because you don't get enough swell there in the UK? Is that why? You need more waves?
I'm externally grumpy. So I look grumpy on the outside, but I'm happy on the inside. So it should be the Grumpy, in brackets, Happy Surfer Inside podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. And if you ever need anything, like, just let me know. We'll shoot it out there, and we'll try to get some love over there to the UK surf community.
Nice one, mate. Well, thanks for coming on, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Take care, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye. Cheers.
And that's it. If you enjoyed my conversation today with John, please like, share, and subscribe on your podcast providers. And also follow me on the Grumpy Surfer podcast on Instagram. Thanks for listening.